Hi there, let's build a CI/CD pipeline for Snowflake with Azure DevOps in 30 minutes. Let's get started. In this session, let us create some Snowflake objects such as database, schema, table, stage, and file format, and deploy it into Snowflake using CI/CD pipelines. In order to do that, we need to set up few things. Firstly, we need to set up a free trial Snowflake account where you can work with Snowflake for 90 days for free. Secondly, need to sign up for Azure DevOps, which is free again. Later, we need to set up Azure pipelines and create Azure repositories, which holds our migration scripts. And of course, we need a schema migration tool to safely migrate the schema changes. In this demo, we are going to use Snowflake community built schema migration tool called schema change. Finally, any IDE for developing our SQL scripts and pushing the changes into the version control system. Let us go and set up all these one by one. You will be receiving an email from Snowflake like this, and click to activate and fill in the user details to log in. Once you activate an account, go to that URL that is provided and then fill in the username and the password and sign in. By default, Snowflake will create two of the shared database, like one is Snowflake and Snowflake sample data. Because I have been working on the Snowflake for a while, I created some of these DBs, so you don't see that. But yeah, go to worksheet and click on this worksheet, and let's create a new DB and can assign it. For now, let's name the worksheet as demo and select the varows. Basically, to run your queries we need the resources, right? So that is called varows in Snowflake. So by default you will be given with compute varows, which is x small. Let's select that and we chosen the role as account admin, and let's create on database to see whether is everything set up fine. Let's create a DB called demo, execute this. Automatically the context will set to this DB. Let's say if I want to select what is my current database, because after I create a database, if I create a table on top of that, then those tables will be created in this database. So it looks like all set up. Let's go and set up Azure repos and pipelines. Before I jump in and set up all those services, I just want to give a high level overview of what is Azure DevOps and what a schema migration tool is all about. Azure DevOps Services is a SaaS offering from Azure Cloud. Azure DevOps provides a complete end-to-end set of software development tools to manage the SDLC. What does that mean? It's not the developer straight away jumps into the coding and deploys the code. There are several phases in the software development lifecycle, like planning, coding, building, and testing, and deploy the code. To support each and every phase of SDLC, Azure offers various services such as Azure repos, Azure pipelines, Azure boards, Azure test plans, Azure artifactories. Though we will be concentrating more on repos and pipelines for this demo. So, what is Azure repos? It's a set of version control tools that you can use to manage your code. Whether your software project is large or small, using version control as soon as possible is a good idea. Version control systems or software that help you to track changes that you make in your code over time. What is Azure pipelines? Azure Pipelines automatically builds and tests code projects to make them available to others. It works with just about any language or project type. Azure Pipelines combines continuous integration and continuous delivery to test and build your code and ship it to any target. Azure Boards. Azure Boards enables the team to keep track of their task, work status, user stories, backlogs, features, and any problems or flaws discovered during the project. Basically, a companion for the Scrum Master. Azure Test Plans is a test management tool within Azure DevOps that lets user manage test plans, test suites, test cases for everyone in the software development project. Azure Artifacts. Azure Artifacts enable developers to share their code efficiently and manage all their packages from one place. Schema change. Schema change is a lightweight Python based tool to manage all your Snowflake objects. Please note that it's not the Snowflake offering, it's actually built by Snowflake community. It follows an imperative style approach to the database change management, and it was inspired by the Flyway database migration tool. So there are two styles can be followed for altering the schemas. Either it can be declarative or imperative. So while doing a demo, I'll come to that. What is imperative? What is an declarative style? But to note, schema change is an imperative style approach. When schema change is combined with the version control tool and the CI/CD tool, database changes can be approved and deployed through a pipeline using modern software delivery practices. So, what does that mean? In earlier days, they used to share the files and DB used to deploy the changes, but they like an application that we do, for Python application or whatever, we maintain the versions and go back and see who did what on when. But in traditional approach, they didn't use, like, they just share the files and do the deployment. So now the agile deliveries, everyone has started embracing the agile deliveries and CI/CDs. So all the objects, if we need to change over time, then we can versionize the schema changes basically. Okay, so because it's the inspiration from Flyway database migration tool, whatever the changes that we are making to one database, either creating a table or altering the table or creating a file format or altering the schema, all these things called as migrations. So because these schema management tools needs to understand what version went in, what is about to alter, so we need to follow the set of naming conventions. There are different variety of script namings are available, but in this demo we are going to look at the mentioned version script naming version. For example, you need to have a v as a prefix and the version number, and the two as a separator, two underscores, and the description of that load or the script, then the SQL extension. Let's see other things in the demo. All right, let's see what are all the objects we're going to create in Snowflake using the CI/CD pipelines. So we are going to create a database called schema change demo, and we are going to use the public schema. So whenever there is a DB created, automatically this public schema will be get created. So we're going to use that default schema that's get created, and we are going to create two file formats: CSV with no header and the JSON, which will be helpful in loading the files from stage into the target tables, basically giving some additional metadata information to the Snowflake, like how to treat the files. And the stages, basically it's the cloud location where the local files or the external S3 bucket or the Azure blob storage where we can point. So giving the reference to the Snowflake to point to the external storage, that's called stage. And we are going to create two tables called trips and weather. That's all. Once you log in into Azure DevOps, you can see that the project Snowflake DevOps demo is already created, because while signing in, we have provided that information. So the project got created. You can see the boards where you can maintain the work items, boards, backlogs, sprints, and all those things. Basically, Scrum Masters will use this, but for this demo, we can just look into repos and pipelines. Let's go to repositories. So, because you created the project name as demo, Snowflake DevOps underscore demo, sorry, hyphen demo. It has already created a repository in Azure Repos. And if you want to clone, you can use HTTPS or SSH, or clone directly into Visual Studio. Or for pushing the repositories, we can use this. We know already. Initialize the main branch with README. I'm going to initialize with README, and let's say set up a build, starter pipeline, and let's copy the pipeline script. I will explain what is this all about. um yep. So basically, to trigger our pipeline, we need a trigger point, right? So what I'm saying is, the trigger point is the branch. Whenever the main branch get updated, this pipeline needs to be executed. So what are all the paths that I can look for changes? So we will create a directory called migrations. If any files included or changed, then this pipeline will get triggered. That's the meaning of this pipeline YAML, and it, of course, it's required some VM image to run all these pipelines. Then variables, we will create a variables called demo variables, where you will be passing all the Snowflake related parameters and other parameters if anything is required. We will set up that in this demo. And we need Python 3.8 version. The Python, the schema change is Python based tool, so we need 3.8 Python environment. And we gonna install the schema change in that virtual machine, and gonna run the schema change using all these parameters that we gonna set up in the demo variables, and the Snowflake password. Yeah, let's go to variables. There are no variables, so let me create new variables called, because in the pipeline I have given us demo variables. And okay, we can't create from here. I am going to create the variables group. So let me go here in the library and create a variable group. Let me call it as demo variables. For the simplicity, I just give the same as the name in the description. And let's go and create variables. First parameter is project folder. Project folder, it's a default working directory. And we're gonna provide the Salesforce account details. Basically, to get this one, you need to basically, to get these details, you need to go to your login URL, where you can find the region information and account name. So you need to form this with this, and copy this detail in here. This is the account detail for Snowflake, and let's add the username that you created for Snowflake account. We can mark it as secret so that it will be hidden, and the password. And add the role. Basically, this is the role used to create our objects. Usually, when you create a table or schema or any schema level objects, we will be using sysadmin. But for this demo, let me use the default account admin role. And warehouse, by default, when you sign up for free account, you will be provided with compute warehouse, a small warehouse to execute your queries. Basically, that provides the resources for running your queries. And the database name, I think we have created DevOps demo. Yep, we're all set. Let's save this. Let me copy the pipeline script once again. Save and run. This actually commit directly to the main branch. Let me leave the commit message as it is and save and run. Yeah, now the pipeline should fail because we didn't provide the permission to the variable group to this pipeline, so it should fail. Let's see. See, the pipeline needs permission to access the resource. So let me go to that variable and provide the permission. Let's go to repositories. If you see here, by default it added the pipeline script that we created earlier. Okay, let me go and clone this repository. I already installed Git, so let me create a folder to keep my repository. It started cloning. Let me sign into my account so that it sets git conf. Let me open a new window. Yes, I trust the authors. Let me open the terminal and see which branch we are at. We are at main branch. Let me create one more branch called migration 1, and let me create a folder called migrations. and create a file. As I mentioned, for version script and schema change, it should starts with V and version number and two hyphens, and create and the description of that file on the SQL. In this file, whatever the SQL script that I have created earlier, let me pick that up. Yeah, and paste in here. Let me commit this changes as migration 01 objects. Commit and publish to the branch. Either I can do this with CLI, or you know I can do, yeah, because I pushed from UI and I tried pushing from CLI. It says everything up to date. When you open repos, I can see the new branch that I have created and pushed. I can see it in the Azure repos. Let me create a pull request and let me add myself as reviewer. And here you can link any work items that is assigned to you as part of this build. Yeah, we haven't created anything in the board, so I'm not gonna link anything for now. Let me create this pull request because I'm the reviewer. I can approve it, and by clicking complete, I can merge this migration one branch into main branch. Okay, the merge has been completed. The pipeline should have been created. I mean, pipeline should have been triggered. Let's go and check. Okay, I went into the pipelines and can see my trigger is completed. Like these are the steps it followed, like we mentioned in the YAML script for the pipeline. So it's install the Python 3 and install the schema change and dependencies, and executed the schema change command, and it completed the bill. Let's go and check in Snowflake whether all the objects have been created. I logged into Snowflake and I'm going to refresh this DB, and you can see the schema have been created. Basically, this is created by schema change tool, where it creates a table called change history. It will all the metadata, like when it got created and what is the hash and what is the version of the file and what is the description of the file that created these objects. Let's have a look at the data preview. Let's select the warehouse to run the query. Basically, it's gonna run select start from the table. So yes, the version ID and the Snowflake object name and the checksum will be created. So just in case if I alter any of the objects with the new version. So schema change will come and check this change history table, what is the version I applied and what is the new version that I need to apply. So schema change is intelligent enough to check these tables and get to know and apply the script that we used. So we just created this change schema change demo and used the public schema and created two file formats. Let me go to worksheet and create a new worksheet and select the database as schema and select the public schema and select the warehouse. Let me show show tables. It should show us two tables that we created, trips and weather. And if we check file formats, we should see two file formats, CSV with no header and the JSON. And if we check for stages object, there should be two, one for CSV and one for yeah. Okay, let's go and add new column to one of these tables and see how intelligently the schema change tool applies the changes. And okay, I'm in Visual Studio and in the migrations directory, let me create one more directory and this time I will apply the version as 1.1 and let me give the description as update objects .sql. SQL, yeah. um, Let me copy this table. If I were added a column by recreating this table, which is called declarative, let's say I'm adding total time in hours, then this type of redefining style is called declarative. But what we gonna do is we gonna alter this table, which is imperative style of the table and table name add column total time in hours. Let me save the script and modify. Oops. Commit and publish the changes. So it should have created one more branch and let me create a pull request and create. Let me complete. Yeah, it has been merged. Let me go to pipelines and see what's happening. Let me go to job. The The pipeline automatically got triggered and it's running. Let me go and check the schema change table and the change history table. Right, store DevOps demo public schema change. Schema change history. Let me check the build whether it's completed. Oh, it got failed. Okay, I forgot to provide the use schema because Snowflake by default doesn't know like what is the context. Basically, you need to let the Snowflake know what is the database, what is the schema. Then only it will go and check the table because this strip table might be under different schema and different database, so it couldn't able to look it. That's the reason it failed. Let me go to VCS and say use schema change demo. It is under which database? Schema change demo. Schema change demo, and it is under public. Right, so let me give public. Okay, that branch might have been deleted once because we already merged the pull request. Let me create one more branch called migration 3 and push change and go back to my repos, create one more pull request and approve this change. Let me go to pipelines and see whether my build got triggered. Got triggered. I think this time it should go and add a new column to the table. Yep, it succeeded. Let me go and check the schema change history table. So this time it created a new version and created a new checksum. Let's go and check whether it have added trips table with the new column. Let me check the definition. It got added the total time in hours.